whenever there's any type of disaster or crisis going on, it's not long before conspiracy theories begin to show up and, I guess, plague our culture and make us all wonder, is what we're experiencing or witnessing even real? Like, what's going on behind the scenes? If there is conspiracies going on, if there are people behind the scenes controlling everything, keeping the strings moving on all of us as puppets, what would be the point? What's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Pernosophy podcast, a show about life science and philosophy. On this episode, we're going to be talking about if it even makes sense for this whole coronavirus debacle that we're living through to be a conspiracy. Does it make sense for the higher powers or the people in charge to control the masses, to make sure we're all one in the same, that we're all conformed to one line of thinking, to one lane of career paths, to one just system that just controls us all? Because when you think about it, and starting off immediately, is it doesn't make sense for there to be just countless puppets in society to all become the same person, to all become these cogs in a system that just keep the regular way of life churning, to just keep this regular / boring / stale way of life continuing. Because as a whole, when there are creative people, when there are people that are trying to make a difference, to get smarter, to impact society for the greater, to constantly give back, to help people grow, to help people flourish, to help all these societies and individuals to prosper, and for even the most basic things, the things that we all take for granted, like medicine and technology, entertainment, all these industries and all these organizations, they don't work when there's just this one chain of conformed humans where they're all just basically cattle and just fitting to this system, this one way of life. If we don't have the individuals, if we don't have the creative people, if we don't have the people that are trying to continuously climb the hierarchies, to keep testing systems, to keep testing new ways of life, then we just grow stale as a whole, as humans as a whole just become nothing. We become cattle on a farm where we're just getting pushed through the systems. We're getting pushed in and out of the gates. We're going through it's that classic cog life where we're all just whining and grinding on this same path. And when you think about it, it really doesn't make sense for there to be these people behind the scenes pulling the strings, trying to push us all towards this one way of life, because they will only lose out if it becomes that way of thinking, that way of life. If what people are thinking, that they are using this crisis to their advantage, to cash in, to be able to push us towards this basic and surveillanced lifestyle where we all get no say, then they lose in the future, because everything starts to come to a halt. Like I said, the medicine and technology, entertainment, all of that will start to decline when people are not allowed to be themselves, when they're not allowed to have that independence and that freedom. And there's no point in having all of that to slow down, because that's a huge line of wealth even. So if they're thinking about making everybody the same, making nobody have original thoughts, and making everybody this cog in the entire clockwork of society, then they lose too, because typically the thought is that money is everything, right? Power, money. But if that is so, then you take away the ability for us to evolve and adapt to new environments, to new societies, to new ways of life, and then they lose out, because they lose that advancement of all those things that continue around us all. So if you take away the ability for us to progress science and technology, then they suffer too, because then they don't get the next big thing that everybody wants, the next smartphone or the next spaceship, the teleporter. All these things will get pushed aside because they're not possible, because there aren't the people out there to push towards achieving these types of things. And if you pushed everyone towards this one conformed society where we all think the same, we all dress the same, we all act the same, then we not only suffer, but they will suffer too, because there will be no point in this seeking of growth that humans are so fundamentally, innately born with. And that's not to say that a lot of us aren't already conformed to certain ways of life and certain ways of thinking, but taking away that ability, that freedom where we're able to sort of push our own boundaries personally, individually, and also to try to impact our lives, our family, friends, and the society at large's life, changes Earth way too much. And it would change it to the point where there is no more improvement, and then it would grow stale, and then it would start to suffer. And that is not what any Western society wants right now. We've gone through that point. Obviously, there's always potential for it to happen again, but we've gone through that fight of the one way of thinking, of that one conformed, hey, if you're not with us, you're against us type of thought, and that type of way of life where it ended in wars. And that is still happening today, where we have the uprising of the shut up and don't question anything and just go with the flow, and the you're offending me culture, where they're all pro freedom of speech until someone shows up to the place wearing, say, a MAGA hat, and they get verbally or physically abused, thereby implying that they are not pro freedom of speech. But so long as you don't go against their way of thinking. And this is the point here. It's the ability to have different thoughts, the ability to question things and not be shut down when you do have a different thought, or you say something that does go against the norm, because that is the entire point of how we learn and grow. It's for example, you say something and you realize you don't agree with what you just said, with what you just articulated, or somebody else knocks you down and goes, you can't say that doesn't make any sense. And they have an argument against you, not necessarily turns into an argument, but it's just that, it's the back and forth, which is what our society thrives off, where we have the ability to test things, to be able to push different ideas and to have different thoughts. And that's what keeps us all on this path where we keep, bucking heads here and there, but also growing. Oppression and suppression of people and societies and thoughts is definitely a thing. It's definitely something that goes on. And I'm not saying that no crises or disasters are not controlled by people behind the scenes, where they're trying to push their ideal agenda or their ideal narrative upon Earth to make a change or to begin something. But we can't just always think the worst of everything, and we need to look at the bigger picture and to consider what it means for the West to go backwards, where we reverse back to this conformed state again. We must always question things, and we must always be ready to backlash certain ideas and removal of our basic rights and all that. But we can't live in fear as well, and we can't always be skeptical about everything that's going on, and we have to take it at face value, including this virus, because it's something that's completely unknown. We don't know what's going on. It's come from a place where we don't really know what's going on inside there. So we have to put all these boundaries up. We have to enforce all these rules, and to sort of go to the drastic way of things where a lot of us are questioning, well, like, come on, it can't be that bad. We've got 26 million people in Australia, for example, and only 6,000 something are infected as of mid-April or so. But we can't always think the worst of everything that's going on. We can't always just think and assume that they're trying to mess with us, that they're trying to destroy our lives and make us pay more money, because in reality, there's not much point for them to mess with us that much that it takes away all our individual rights, all our individual thoughts, all our desires to want to improve our own life, and that, because that only leads to darker times where nothing is going on. And like I said earlier, they lose out too, especially in regards to this coronavirus. This is all unknown. This has come from a place where we don't really know what's going on inside there. And it's kind of just gone straight to the drastic measures of just shut down everything, make it simpler. If we just lock everything down because we don't know what's going on. And when looking at countries like Taiwan, what they did, how they responded, it's smarter just to go straight and follow that kind of that place straight away and go, something's up. Best to just save as many people as we can and try to get back to our way of life slowly. And even if they are messing with us, even if there are people behind the scenes pulling the strings, it doesn't stop us from speaking up, from questioning people, from questioning ideas, criticizing other people by trying to make sure that we all stick together and we keep our society strong, our Western society strong, where we will overcome this bullcrap and be able to go back to our ways of life eventually. And even if you do look at it like China wanted to ruin the earth, China wanted to ruin people's lives, they're destroying so much right now of economic trade even, where they're going to lose out. People are going to stop buying from their country. And that's not something they would have wanted. They don't want to lose that trade, the trade deals, the income, the jobs, because that was like how many people listening to this have bought Chinese made products. Like so many of us, we love having the ability to buy the cheaper item, and it wouldn't be a goal of theirs to remove that type of relationship, that trust with a culture like that. Of course, I could be wrong about all of this, but it's just been some thoughts I've had recently when I've watched certain videos or just read some posts or whatnot. But I'd love to know what you think about all of this. Are there people behind the scenes pulling all the strings, trying to use this coronavirus to their advantage, to mess with our system, to take away our individual rights, to make our lives worse? You can drop me a line at pernosophy.com, or you can head to social media and track me down there. If you're watching this on YouTube, chuck a comment below, hit that like button, subscribe button. It'll really help me out. Anyway, I guess that's about it. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.